The United States of America is angry for its citizens, angry about injustice and insensitivity from Iran. Iran has been said to put thousands of U.S. citizens' lives in harm's way without looking back, coupled with some religious undertones. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel, let's keep it that way first, launched a large-scale offensive against Iran. After weeks of military build-up and threats from President Trump. In the Truth Social post, Trump said the goal of the operation is to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime. Trump urged Iranians to capitalize on the attack as the only chance for generations. To take over their government. Trump and Israeli officials later confirmed that Israel Defense Force (IDF) strikes on Tehran killed Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. A whole lot more has happened following this attack. Lives have been lost, damages have been recorded, but what comes next? We must also consider global responses. To look into this issue and analyze holistically is Regional Research Associate, RRA, Indo-Pacific Studies Center, IPSC Australia, and Senior Lecturer in the Department of International Relations, Iconic Open University, Nigeria, Dr. Zakari Mama. Good morning to you. Hello, good morning, Dr. Zakari. Okay, then we'll have to go the other way. I'll get him right on in a minute. Stay with us. Okay, Dr. Zakaria, are you there with us?
Yes, good morning.
Yes, okay. So good morning to you, and it's great to have you talk to us on Prime Discourse on Midas Radio 90.5 FM.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you.
All right. Yes, a happy new month. Okay, before we go on, I would like us to take something from Trump's statement. He made quite an assertive position on this ongoing war, Iran/Israel/the United States. So let's take this for about a few minutes, and then we'll come back to really look into the issues.
Okay.
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal. Something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again, they can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions. and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Doctor, what a speech. I'm sure you heard all of that, and I'm sure even before now you must have, had this piece. You must have listened to this. But let's look from here. Trump had looked to have genuine reasons for this offensive against Iran. I mean, for several weeks, we have been dealing with stories where we've had Trump threaten if Iran and the US would not agree, would not make peace about whatever issues they have between them. But is this really necessary? Would you say that U.S. has exhausted? I mean, talks have happened even until yesterday before the talks ended without a deal, a clear deal. Was that the end to the talking, or was the U.S. already overstretched with this deal process? What do you say?
Thank you very much. If you carefully listen to President Donald Trump's analysis of U.S. face-off specifically with Iran from the 1979 Iranian Revolution, you understand that there has been consistent face-off between the United States of America from that time till date. And even when Ayatollah Khamenei actually took over the leadership in 1989, 36 years ago, the same face-off has continued between the United States of America and Iran. And to add, you also discover from his speech, he actually made mention of a lot of losses suffered by the United States of America over the years. I think, in my own opinion, that actually formed the basis that a regime that will be shouting death to America, death to Israel, has concluded that no matter the outcome of whatever negotiation it is, that they are not likely to shift ground, because they believe that as a sovereign nation, the United States of America should not dictate to them. So I see some level of frustration on the part of the United States of America, looking at effort that has been put in place over the years to ensure that there is a deal between the United States of America and Iran, particularly as it relates to their nuclear deal. And this deal has failed even during the first tenure of President Donald Trump, that he had to pull out of the deal. So basically, what we see is a frustrated United States of America trying to make a deal, or trying to ensure that every diplomatic avenue in ensuring that there is a deal between the United States of America and Iran has failed. But however, beyond this analysis by the President of the United States of America, beyond that, beyond strategic and political relation between the United States of America, America's interest is at stake. Also, even from the speech of the President, actually tells you that the interest of the United States of America and our ally within the Middle East is also at stake. We should also understand that beyond Iran, interest of the United States of America is very, very critical. Any nation can go to war when the primary interest, particularly issues that has to do with our national security, is at stake. And from the position of the United States of America, we've seen a leader under Donald Trump who said that over the years, for decades, the Iranian regime, particularly the Iranian regime, has actually posed more strength America by funding terrorist organizations within the Middle East, and also attacking in significant numbers of United States citizens within the Middle East. All these constitute both remote and immediate causes of the fallout between the United States of America and Iran. But beyond that, I think it is important we look at other key interests. The interest of the United States of America, particularly looking at the growing influence of China in the Middle East, as well as the strategic deal between China and Iran, also constitute another significant threat to U.S. interest in the region. And if you look at particularly the relationship Iran has built in recent years with Russia as well as China, constitutes also a threat to the interest of the United States of America. So if you look at this put together, both the threat issued by Iran on their own part, the threat on the part of the United States of America, you will discover that there are multiplicities of factors that have actually made the United States of America to come to the conclusion that looking at what this regime has done over the years, looking at effort put in place, there is a need for regime change. And this actually call for key interests. And again, we shouldn't also forget the interest of Israel. Israel is also one of the regional power, and Israel will not want Iran to rise to the point where Iran will continue to pose significant threats to their existence. So all this put together constitutes significant factor that has actually influenced the ongoing war.
And so the U.S. could not probably take some more time. I spoke with a few persons, and I mean analysts, and they said that, well, the time to do that was now. The U.S. did not really have to wait. Do you also take that position? Even if it had been, frustrated over the years?
Yes, I think that is also one. You also discover, if you also listen to the speech of the Iranian foreign minister, he's of the opinion, if you look at what is going on, even Oman, the Qatari government and other U.S. allies in the Middle East that have been intervening, you will discover to a large extent there is some level of skepticism over their intervention. For instance, if you look at Saudi Arabia, Iran too are not too sure of the position of the Saudi government, particularly in mediating in that conflict. And also look at the Oman. For instance, if you look at the ongoing attack on military bases around the Middle East, you will discover that, for instance, the Saudi government has actually come up to tell the world that, look, they will not allow the United States of America to use their homeland as a point of attack to Iran. But today what you see the Iranian regime targeting those facilities. Look at
the UAE.
Qatar, look at other countries within the Middle East. That actually tells you that despite the fact that even the fact that a U.S. ally in the region actually said that their homeland soil will not be used, you discover that there is still element of a lack of trust. At this point, I think Iran is actually trying to see how they can leverage on using attack on U.S. ally as a point to further push for negotiation in this conflict.
We have also been concerned about nations of the world who may just get involved in this. Of course, there are other nations that are affected, and whatever position they have in this ongoing war is quite critical. Now, what will be your stance at this point going forward? The U.S. is still on top of its game to say it will still fire more, it will still do more until it totally gets power off Iran, so to speak. Talking about cutting off its efforts, its plan in getting in acquiring or building nuclear weapons. So we're looking at the responses from other global nations just around the Middle East. What will be your take on their response to this situation?
I think we can look at this from two standpoints. I think the first is how much of these punches can U.S. ally take from Iran? Because if you look at Saudi Arabia today, Saudi Arabia has said that if need be, that there is also need for Saudi Arabia to attack Iran. So you can see how much more of these punches can those countries take. Look at the Qatari government. You look at some of the attacks that were carried out by the Iranian regime. You discover that some of them, they are targeted at not even U.S. bases, but they are also targeted at the civilian population. This is also telling you in future, probably as the war proceeds, that there is possibility that other U.S. allies within the region may likely be involved in this war, indirectly or directly, because they cannot take bulk of these punches that they've been receiving, because automatically as it is today, it has actually affected their economy. Significant numbers of this country are beginning to close their airspaces from foreign flight and so forth and so on. So basically my position is that diplomacy still remains a very fundamental option here. I think the Iranian government should actually seek way where they can come to negotiation, and they should actually halt attack to other countries, because at the end of the day, if the attacks do not stop, countries like Saudi Arabia may be pushed further to actually support the attack. Bahrain and other countries too may likely also support the United States, and that would be a serious problem for the Iranian regime. And I think that will not be good. I think the best option at this point, diplomacy still remains a very key option at this point.
Now, the risk of one question any other person will ask is how Iran may choose to respond to this. I mean, Iran is also stating that, well, with whatever it has, whatever power it thinks it has, it can also do some sort of firing. And, well, we saw how that transpired getting into Saudi Arabia. But the risk of Iranian miscalculation in determining its response to a new round of strikes is high. Is said to be. This is from journalists, from analysts who have looked into this issue. Iran has repeatedly threatened to unleash a regional war on the United States and Israel. How do you think? Because of course, let's take it this way. Iran perceives that U.S. strikes are primarily symbolic. Then it may calibrate its response accordingly. Are we ready to go this route? If Iran puts its weapons together, what it has currently, and says, well, even if we did not agree on a deal, because Iran is insisting right now that whatever U.S. did was not called for. Yes, we did not agree on a deal. We had issues from many, many decades back, but this was not pressured. How do you think this will go if Iran chooses to respond?
Yeah, already we can also see the response of Iran. If you look at available estimate shows that Iran has almost 3,000 missiles. And if you look at significantly, those missiles, their capacity can only reach neighboring countries within the Middle East, like Israel. Just very few of the missiles have the capacity to hit Israel, like the Fatah 2 has the capacity to reach Israel. Those be above between 2,500 kilometers can reach that area. But significant numbers of those missiles, they are restricted because they are mid-range missiles. And what Israel and the United States of America has been able to do within these past 2 days is to ensure that they attack the missile launch. So attacking this missile launch to a large extent has also weakened the capacity of Iran to actually carry out some mid-range attack. So looking at it, what we should be looking at this point is that does Iran actually have the capacity to actually continue this fight? Because as it is today, a lot of Iranians are fed up with the regime. That is not the truth, and we can see that the regime is more autocratic. Looking at the incident over the years, having domestic support is also another important factor that will also help to determine the extent to which the Iranian regime can go. But though we can see that the way it was in Venezuela is quite different from the way it is in Iran, because in the case of Iran, what we have today, we have a regime that is ideologically and theoretically based. So in this regard, how much of these weapons do you see? Because at the end of the day, the retaliation of Iran will not go beyond military bases within our neighbor because of the capacity of those missiles. And to conclude on this, I think the Iranian government should also be careful, because at this point the political leadership has been weakened, and because the Iranian government have not been able to strategically attack key facilities as it ought to, because the major one that they've received some boast or some record is that of the U.S. military base in Iraq. But however, in other places, most of the attacks that have been carried out, they are on civilian facilities in Qatar, in Oman, and other places. They are all civilian facilities such as airports, shopping mall, and residential building. Just few of them, because some of those missiles have been intercepted. So the question is how long can the present regime, looking at the cracks on the wall, how far they can go? Will be determined as the days go by. But you will agree with me on a general note that in terms of the firepower between the U.S., Israel, as well as Iran, it is an asymmetry warfare. It is not a warfare that it can easily be won, but it can also lead to an escalation. And the escalation, what the Iranian government is trying to do presently is to see that once they attack U.S. ally, they will actually push for the United States to actually call for peace. But some of them are not doing that in this regard. Rather, they are also threatening indirectly on how to retaliate on Iran. So these are some of the issues that, as the days unfold, then we'll continue to see how event goes.
Yeah, indeed. But we'll talk about consequences for this. That's what the U.S. is doing right now under the leadership of Trump, and sanctions side by side. Now, part of the reason Trump must have done this, the Iran attack, is that he's looking like there were no real military or political repercussions for the U.S. involvement in Israel's 12-day war against Iran in June 2025. I mean, we all remember this, or even the Maduro operation in the last month. So, and again, let me bring this back to mind that recently we know we had President Trump sign an executive order directing the U.S. to withdraw from 66 international organizations. So it looks like the U.S. seems to believe in itself as being that powerful. Now, if any consequences should come with this, I mean, he also apologized that, well, he knows that there may be maybe collateral damage. Let's use that language, collateral damage in all of this. But the U.S. is more concerned about its people. Nobody will threaten the U.S. and nobody would threaten and get away with it. So it's about him. It's about his people. But how about casualties? How about relations, bilateral relations with nations of the world? So what would be your position on sanctions or consequences for this action?
If you look at it carefully, you see, every nation strategically, before they embark on any kind of war, there are three levels of threat analysis. We have a long-term threat analysis, we have a medium-term threat analysis, and we have a short-term threat analysis. The Iranian situation fall within the short-term threat analysis to the United States. Now, if you look at and also listen carefully to the speech of President Donald Trump, already 3 servicemen from the United States have been lost. And also, if you look at the on the Iranian side, there are a lot of civilian casualties recorded, including children in schools that were attacked and so forth and so on. There is no war anywhere in the world without collateral damage of any kind. If you look at Iran, most of the facilities in terms of military infrastructures have been destroyed. If you look at even the house of the supreme leader was destroyed, and if you look at the whole lot of infrastructure has been destroyed. As at this morning, I think 9 Iranian warship has been destroyed by the United States of America. So if you look at it, there is no way there will be war of this nature that there won't be any collateral damage. But let us also look at it also on the side of Israel. You will discover that if you look at the case of Israel, there are significant numbers of casualty on their own end. There are a lot of killings. But the question now is that the U.S. will only be affected, particularly when it has to do with military base within the Middle East. And again, you discover that Iran lacked the capacity to launch any attack from our soil directly to the mainland United States of America. So it keeps the United States of America far from this warfare, why Israel remain one of the prime targets and the United States military base. So in terms of casualty, of course, there will be casualty on both sides of the divide. But however, degree of this casualty, of course, will be different because of the asymmetric nature of the war. If you look at the United States and Israel already, they've taken total control of the airspace, the Iranian airspace. If you look at it also, you will discover that even the air defense system from China and Russia could not even salvage significant numbers of military infrastructure within Iran. And as you see, the way the bombing is still ongoing, there are a whole lot of issues. The citizens are hiding. Of course, there are some of those casualty figures that you cannot quantify at this level. But fine. So definitely Iran will suffer a whole lot because these are two powerful nations going after Iran and a nation and trying to drag even neighboring countries. They are also suffering from their own infrastructural arm or whatever. So you will discover that definitely in terms of human casualty, there will be, but on the side of the Iranian, my major concern for a significant numbers of Iranian civilians, though they've been suffering from regime oppression and a lot of Iranians have been killed, but in the course of this war, of course, without any doubt, there will be significant numbers of casualties. So moving forward, I think diplomacy still remains one of the fundamental way forward to addressing this issue.
If you just joined Pepper Trent, Prime Discourse on Midas Radio 90.5 FM. You have been listening for about 40 minutes since this started. You have been listening to Regional Research Associate, RRA, Indo-Pacific Studies Center, IPSC, Australia, and Senior Lecturer in the Department of International Relations, Iconic Open University, Nigeria, Dr. Zakari Momo.
Thank you very much.
Now, just like you said earlier, there's some underlying reasons that could have put all of this up. Do you think that Donald Trump is shifting away from talking about oil? This has been one of the talking points when you talk about the U.S. invading or attacking or launching offenses on nations like this. Iran is a major producer of oil, and we'll get this to Nigeria in some way. That will be the final part we'll be looking at, talking about the security aspect and talking about this oil economy, because we will also look at the implications of what this will be. So let's talk about oil for a minute. Iran is top on this, big on oil production. Is the U.S. intentionally not talking about that? Is that part of the plan?
The U.S. cannot go to war for nothing. Scholars in international relations will tell you that there is no free meal in international relations. The U.S. has its own economic interest in the region. Of course, you will also agree with me that the recent partnership between the Iranian government and the Chinese government poses significant threat to the interest of the United States in the Middle East. You will discover that the Iranian government has allied basically the China, Russia, and possibly North Korea, who have been giving them support. These are also countries that have been helping them to actually evade the U.S. sanction on Iran. And you discover that 80% of the oil from Iran passed through the Strait of Hormuz to China. And this war becomes necessary because it's also a strategic war where the United States also want to weaken China economy strategically. And taking this move at this particular time will actually reduce the flow of oil to China, and by implication will affect the Chinese economy. So you discover that this is also an economic war too that has a political undertone. So we look at more often people look at it within political and strategic angle, but it has an economic undertone because the interest of the United States in terms of economy remain very, very critical. But let me also add that the U.S. will be the best if at the end of the day there is a regime change that will have a better and a smoother relationship with the United States. This will actually help the U.S. to actually checkmate the influence of China in that region.
Okay, interesting. All right, before we get on with the conversation, let me give the lines out so that because of the time we have, you may have to respond to some questions in between. We'll try to manage that time. 0915 090 5905. 0915 090 5905, 0704 100 1905, 0704 100 1905, or if you choose to join us on WhatsApp, 0915 190 5905, 0915 190 5905. Let's take this call. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, my name is Vincent. I'm calling from Ado.
Okay, let's hear you.
My take is that we have been clamoring for this country for a long time that they should try and arrest those sponsors of Boko Haram the sponsors of ISWAP, the sponsors of this, the sponsors of this. And there's a certain time that during President Buhari, that a name came from outside the country that these are people that are sponsoring Boko Haram, and they refuse to announce those names. And now we have been praying that the roots of this cause should be attacked, should be arrested. And now it has been arrested. I think if US continue to bombard Iran and make sure that the whole thing stops, I think the killing of all these terrorists will be reduced.
Okay.
That is the root of their sponsor.
All right.
They want backing all this, giving back to all this Islamic terrorists. Giving them a different religion idea.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's get this before we get to talk about Nigeria this morning. I mean, Nigeria in the middle of all this war going on. 0915 090 5905. 0915 090 5905. 0704 100 1905. Hello. Hello.
Good morning, BUKOLA.
Good morning.
Yes, I wanted to ask the analysts in the house.
Okay.
I wanted to ask this question also in the morning, but I was not able to get through.
Oh.
This war between US and Iran, if it now leads to the increase in the price of oil, are Nigerians not going to pay more for petrol? That's just my question. Maybe the analysts can throw more light in that.
Okay.
Because if the prices of crude oil increases and with the oil subsidy removal, will Nigeria not pay more for petrol?
Well, that's one of the issues we have pending, but, well, you can just answer that while we look at other areas. So, Dr. Zakari, you heard that. Now, the fear, I mentioned this earlier, we're going to look at the impact of this on oil. I mean, it's in the newspapers talking about a likely hike in the price of oil coming to other areas. So, it looks like, again, Nigeria is one of the nations that may have to suffer something, some way, somehow. Let's hear your thought on this.
Well, thank you very much. The first impact is energy risks. If you carefully look at what is happening, as at yesterday, the Iranian government actually made a very clear statement of closing the strips of Hormuz. Look at the Strait of Hormuz, you'll discover that 30% of global oil production passes through that strip, a very narrow strip of between 21 to 24 miles. Once the Iranian Navy force should close the Strait of Hormuz, the implication is that it has significant impact on about 30% of oil, global oil production. And of course, out of the oil that leaves the shore of Iran to China, 80% of them comes from Iran. Now that will have implication on the Chinese economy. And also, once you take 30% of global oil production, particularly from the Middle East, out of the existing global oil production, you will discover that there is going to be a shortfall in the global oil
supply.
Production. And at the same time, it will also have a negative consequences on the prices of crude oil at the international market. If you look at the Strait of Hormuz, strategically, 20% of gas supply globally passes through that. 25% of oil passes through that. And there is a prediction that current over $60 per barrel, that probably there is going to be a 50% surge in the price of crude oil to around $108 US dollars per barrel. And again, you also discover that the consequences will be so great in the sense that it will actually not only affect the price of crude oil, also it will also affect the distance covered by vessels, particularly that uses the water body. So that automatically, as it is today, the price of insurance for ship also has increased remarkably because of this threat from the Houthi terrorist group that operate within that axis. is. And also to add again, you will also discover that in the few coming days, what we should envisage is increase in the price of crude oil at the international market, and that will automatically put significant pressure on oil producing countries, particularly like Nigeria, because at this point, once you take 30% out of the existing global oil production, it will put the Nigerian government under intense pressure to actually produce more oil for export, and also it will also have some consequences on local consumption of oil.
Indeed. Now, another part I'd like us to look at is in Nigeria here, because we cannot, in all of this war, we cannot take the economy away from the war. So it's here and there. Yesterday, we had some persons, the Shiites group, we had them protest. And now that's in connection with Iran and allegations that Iran has been largely behind terrorism, following the threats against U.S. and what have you. And we know how terrorism has spread. And so Nigeria in this equation is concerned with what's happening with the war, that part. Now, we'll link the Shiites, protesting, to this question where if Trump had said in that statement that the Iranians had begged him for years for the U.S. government, but now he chose to do what any other administration before him refused to do. He has the chance to do it now, and he's doing it for the good of the Iranians, even if, just like we spoke about oil, there could be some economic, undertone about this. Now, coming to Nigeria, we also have oil. Now, that's been one of the center points to say, why do you want to help us? You want to get our oil, that's it. But we keep battling terrorism, and it's just about the same. Well, maybe not exactly the same, but there are similarities with what's happening on the other side and what we have here in Nigeria. What do we say to the leadership, the government, or what have we? The U.S. Troops, some of them have been here for a while. That's the news that we got. What should happen in the middle of all of this?
Well, if you look at what is going on presently, if you look at the composition of the Muslims in Nigeria, we have the Shiite and we have the Sunni Muslim. And the Sunni, basically, they are in Saudi Arabia, and the Shiite, basically, they are from Iran. And we have both group of Muslim movements in Nigeria. Now, before we look at it domestically, we can see response from Saudi Arabia saying that the United States has never used their home soil as a launch pad to attack Iran. That every attack done by Iran is to ensure that they drag them into conflict that they've never been party to. Now in Nigeria, there are Muslims, there are Sunni Muslims, and there are Shiite Muslims here in Nigeria. Every Islamic sect within Nigeria has significant levels of interest. But let me also point out this very quickly, that as at yesterday, the United States consulate in Karachi was attacked by some youths as a form of protest against attack from the U.S. Now, what you see in Nigeria, the Nigerian government must start looking inward to actually distance itself completely from this war at every level. Yes, we know we have significant numbers of the Shiites in Nigeria who are within the state, but the Nigerian government must tread with caution in taking position on this matter, because it's a very sensitive matter, because should in case Saudi Arabia is dragged into this war, invariably you now have two different sects existing in Nigeria, they are based fighting each other. So it's a very delicate issue that the Nigerian government must tread with caution, because we are seeing some reprisal attack in Pakistan, and as the war continues, there is likelihood, even beyond Nigeria, for you to see even some of those reprisal attacks on either the US or the Israel embassy. So in Nigeria, the government must put in place proactive measure. This also will further make some Shiite movement members in Nigeria to actually take a second look at even the United States involvement in the internal affairs, particularly as it has to do with issue of security. So the Nigerian government must make that part very clear.
Okay then. But what would be your personal advice if you had to talk about this personally? Would you ask that just like Iranians asked for decades, some Nigerians have also asked, for several years, that the U.S. comes to help it out of this, terrorism-related issues, and the U.S. is very present in Nigeria. Yes, you say the government should not rush into taking a position, but what should happen really with the U.S., invading territories where, terrorists are, bandits are occupying in Nigeria?
Well, you see, the first thing we should first of all look at is that we should start looking inward first before looking outward. It is our inability as a nation to address our own internal problems that actually necessitated the intervention of the United States of America. If the issue of Boko Haram and other terrorist organizations have been addressed squarely, I think there won't be any need for the United States of America to intervene. Over the years, the government has failed. All the past administration have failed in addressing the issue of insecurity. Rather, what you see in Nigeria is security votes or security funds diverted, looted by politicians, and you discover that the military keep complaining of poor funding, poor welfare, and poor equipment to actually fight those terrorist organizations. So you discover at the level of governance, our leadership have failed. They lack the political will. The system is ridden with corruption. All these problems actually further makes the government weak and make the Nigerian state an inverted state. Instead of the state looking outward, the state is looking inward. So we now have a system where the Nigerian state is weak in terms of its capacity to protect its citizens. So at this point, I think for the U.S. to intervene, it is not the fault of the United States. I think in a popular magazine in Nigeria, they say it is the house rat that invites the bush rat, that there is a food at home, that it should come home. It is our inability to deal with our internal security challenges that actually triggered the intervention of the United States. If we had done well, like any other country, in addressing issue of security, I don't think the United States will have any reason to actually seek for support to address our internal security challenges. But this is to tell us that the government has failed remarkably without any form of bias.
All right then. Let's see if we'll take a few responses before we let you go this morning. Our time is fast spent. We have only 2 minutes to go. Let's see if we'll take one more reaction. And we'll bring this to a close. 0915 090 5905. 0915 090 5905. 0704 100 1905. 0704 100 1905 or WhatsApp 0915 190 5905. WhatsApp 0915 190 5905. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
A beautiful morning.
Yes, my name is Adediji Adeyinka calling from Adogi.
Okay.
I hope it's thought that President Trump is trying to distract Americans. I'm talking about, now he has been talking about Americans and Americans. I'm talking about Americans have a divided interest concerning whatever Trump is doing. I'm talking about the issue of immigration law. So I hope it's not about trying to win the love of Americans, which I believe has won over the period of time. So, and secondly, what is America doing concerning North Korea? If you are talking about this terrible guy, then North Korea is also in the equation of this terrible. I'm talking about the issue of a state-sponsored cyber crime. So, I mean, if it is a step-by-step approach, well, let's wait and see what America is doing. This should be a sincere war, not the one that is all about, that is hypocritical. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for joining. Okay. At this point, I would say a very big thank you to my guest this morning on Prime Discourse, Dr. Zakari Momo, who is a Regional Research Associate, RRA, Indo-Pacific Studies Center, IPSC, Australia, and Senior Lecturer in the Department of International Relations at Cornell Open University, Nigeria, Dr. Zakari Momo. Thank you very much for
Thank you very
being
much.
with us here on Prime Discourse on Midas Radio 90.5 FM Ado Ekiti.
Thank you very much for having me.
So
Good morning.
in the coming days, we'll just wait to see how this unfolds.
That is true.
All right,
let's
then.
Look at the events. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.
And so we keep our fingers crossed. As events unfold between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Perhaps we have some global responses too in the coming days or coming hours. We'll bring you all of the details on Midas Radio 90.5 FM. Thank you for being a part of the session today. Another time to join is next Monday, 10 to 11 a.m. I am BUKOLA Fortune OMOSOLA. Have a beautiful Monday and a fantastic week. Happy New Month to you once again.